Three, two.
Hello, Graham.
Oh, it's so good to see you growing up in the grass. A grassroots movement you are.
Welcome, everyone, to Tea at 3, Looking for Good. Our third season in Tea at 3, our first season of Looking for Good. Welcome to Looking for Good. This is a program with me, Schmidt, and Graham Kerr. We're going to be coming in every week, having thought about the things in that week, about this idea of searching for the good in our lives throughout the week and the things that those remind us of, and latching on to the good in amongst everything else, all the craziness that's around in the world. And so we come into this new series going back and forth. Graham will say some things, I will say some things, and we can share these experiences together, because not only is keep having this attitude of looking for good so wonderful for yourself, but also being able to share that with someone else brings them joy, and their stories bring you joy, and it just keeps going and going and going down the river. So welcome to Looking for Good. Here we are.
Wonderful. I'm really looking forward to this series. So special. Especially, I have two words that I love to put together: endure and enjoy. And for me, endurance is a lot like life is at the present moment. And enjoyment happens every now and again, and we should celebrate it. Yes, it's difficult, but isn't it amazing when the door flings open a little bit and some sunlight falls on one's life? Oh, how amazing to embrace that.
I discovered something this week. Well, last week. I don't remember when I discovered it, but it arrived. So it turns out you can buy plants online.
Oh, yeah.
And
You just discovered that?
I did. I just didn't think that they would actually get here safely. And I was like really pessimistic about it, but my birthday's in a couple of weeks and I really wanted plants, and I thought that they would take like 2 months to get here, but then they got here yesterday, and they're smaller than they looked like in the picture, but I figured out how to order plants online. And so I had this like new growth feeling of new plants. Also, the snow melted for a little while. I think it's going to snow again like tomorrow, but for a little while there's no snow, so there's green grass, and I'm pretending like it's spring.
Oh, interesting. Do you find at your age that you move the calendar forward, that you're looking forward to the next season so that you sort of dispense with the difficult problem, the winter time, and do spring?
It's always more the like ideal of the seasons that I'm attracted to, but like I
Yes.
think more so like recently like life has started moving almost too fast through the seasons. Like I still
Yeah.
can't believe we're almost done with 2020 already. Like that is
Yeah.
actually insane. I remember like seconds ago thinking I couldn't believe that it was 2020, because as a kid that was like an impossible future day,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't think it
Yes.
would ever come. So
Well, at 60 years older as I am to you, I find myself luxuriating in today. See, I really don't know whether I shall still be around in 6 months' time. I don't have anything lurking that hasn't been told to me, and I'm feeling fine. But I don't like dismissing several months in order to welcome spring. I will welcome it, and I look forward to it immensely. But right now, I am just fascinated by every day. Truly fascinated. And since you and I have taken on this new idea of looking for good, it means that every single day I've got my eyes open to try and see something which is good. And when you reasonably look at the news nowadays and hear it, you just think to yourself, is there anything that is unbroken? I mean, is anything?
It's very tempting currently to have the attitude of just like, I'm just gonna fill my brain with nonsense for the next like 6 months to a year until everything is
Yes.
different in some way.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And you know, you can go to Netflix and find hours and hours, and on YouTube especially. What is it? 500 hours of new material every minute is added there. I mean, golly,
Probably.
that means that you can sit in front of YouTube and nothing, you would still be behind the curve. So, so I have in my corner of this room, I can switch my. Our producer's going to hate this.
Take us on a tour.
See the corner cabinet there?
Ooh.
All right. Now that's got all my earthly treasures in it. All the things that Trina and I collected over the years and everything else. For example, this, right? And you've probably seen that. It's the Willow Creek sculpture. So all of this is in there. And the other day in the middle of the news, actually it was a Zoom with my son, and we were talking politics for one moment because we don't want to extend beyond one moment. And the entire cabinet fell over. The entire thing gave way from one screw in the base, which had gone into plywood, had rotted, and the entire cabinet fell. And it missed me by about 1 foot. You remember the naked man with the book, which hit my cheek. And I could have been crushed by that thing because it's
I'm gonna
really
come
heavy.
bolt all the things in your house down, Graham. Things keep falling on you.
Exactly. You've got. I don't know what the message is behind that, but it's interesting. Then everything, including this, hit the deck in a major avalanche of stuff, and my darling's head came off. But I was able to stick it back on with crazy glue. The trouble was getting my fingers apart.
Oh no.
Afterwards. I didn't realize to what extent that thing does. Anyway, so it took me 9 hours to put that thing back up and put all the stuff back in and mend the things that had broken. Only one fragile piece was destroyed. Only one. And there's about 80 different pieces in there.
My goodness.
So that's extraordinary. So I endured that avalanche, but I rejoiced in the fact that I was able to stick my life back together again in the shelf and relight the whole thing. And it just seems to be so much better and well ordered now than it was before. I'm just happy about that. So that's one thing of looking for good that occurred to me. So.
Yeah, that's so funny that I feel like we always end up having something that really correlates. I'm actually in the middle of a project. I'll probably show it to you when you finish, but I'll give you a sneak peek. Hold on.
I'm holding on. Now, while she's away, I really want to talk to you about this young woman. I think she's really special, and I'm getting to enjoy her more and more all the time. But I didn't want her to hear that.
Here's my sneak peek.
What's that?
I'll show you the whole thing when it's finished. But
is it a piece of the inside of a football?
It's broken, and I'm putting it back together. And
see?
And I keep getting the stuff stuck all over my fingers too, just like you.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I've got it all off now, but...
Good. All right. Another thing that's led to looking for good. And what's gone on? Anything else in your life?
Okay. So I talked last week about how this attitude is definitely not an easy one to continually remember and do. And so the other day I was super tired, super grumpy. There was a lot of stuff going on. And I walked into the kitchen because I was hungry and I wanted breakfast. And the kitchen was just a mess because we're like, it's finals week for my two housemates who are in grad school. And like, it's about to be the holidays. So like everything's kind of crazy and we're all kind of all over the place. And so the kitchen was a total mess. And I was like upset that I knew that I contributed to the mess and that I didn't have the energy to clean it. And so I just needed one butter knife to put some butter on my bagel. And I grabbed the butter knife and I like, I just went to like put it down on the counter next to my plate, and I had just cleaned it. And so it was wet, and it like slipped out of my hand and like flipped. And then I like tried to catch it with one hand, and it like, I hit it and it bounced and it flipped the other way. And I tried to catch it with the other hand, and it like flipped again and bounced. And then I caught it. And like in that moment, I just kind of went like, like I just had like a little giggle. And then I like was like, wait, seize that moment, seize that, like something broke through that funk, that like grumpiness that I was in, like that little moment of like, yes, I caught the knife. That moment broke through, and I was just like, wait, seize it. And I like latched onto that little tiny piece of just like, oh, that's kind of funny that it like bounced around and I still caught it. And I like latched on, and like it brightened up my whole day just to remember that like you can latch onto those little things. And I didn't know why. I was just grumpy for grumpy's sake. There wasn't like a specific reason for it. I was just tired, and it was the morning, and I was hungry. But like being able to take that tiny moment of just like, that was funny, I caught the butter knife, and like expand it into my day, it was such a better start to the morning than what I was already going through.
I love that. I just love that. And it didn't cut you, but it was a butter knife.
It was
So
a butter
it
knife,
wouldn't
yeah.
have, so you could bounce it backwards and forwards. That is good. I'm going to get into the kitchen and see whether I can throw a knife backwards and forwards.
No.
If I come to next time with a large band-aid
No,
on,
grab,
you'll know what.
grab.
Okay, so it's Christmas almost, and Christmas boxes are put together. The Samaritan's Purse people do this Christmas box. Have been doing it for
like Operation Christmas Child or something.
Yeah, something like that. 27 years they've been doing this now. And I got recruited to put stuff into Christmas boxes.
I was just about to say, I was like, yeah, I think they've been around like my whole life. Huh? Guess they have.
Yeah, exactly. You were just a twinkle in your father's eye when they started. I went to this thing and I knew that it would be 2 hours. And, and I have a back when after a while that it gets to be quite weary. And if it gets weary, it's a bit like you were feeling, and my body can feel like that pretty quickly. So I thought, yeah, I could. I'll try the 2 hours, and I did this, and I watched my fellow workers, the elves, who were working on these Christmas boxes. There were about 10 of us, and I was the youngest. There were several over 90 who came in with walkers, but barely able to walk, and were seated, putting things into Christmas boxes. And I looked around and I thought to myself, this is just out of sight wonderful. These dear people were loving children who they would never be able to embrace or see all over the world. And I sat there doing my pedestrian thing, which was opening soap. I had to open small packets of soap, and take the wrappers off in order to get them into a plastic container and close them up and put a rubber band around the outside, and then put them into these shoeboxes. And I could think of a child somewhere in Nairobi or wherever, getting this soap and smelling it, and getting a lather going on her hands. And it was such a sense of joy that I got in seeing that. And I also had to put a little car into it as well. And this is the little car that I asked whether I could get one so I could show it to you. And I could imagine a boy, this is for the boys, a boy on some rough terrain somewhere, running around with his car. And it may be the only car that he's ever seen or imagined in his life. So I found out who makes them. And this is a 94-year-old man that makes these, and he makes 1,000 of them every year in order to be able to put into these boxes. He has a little thing underneath where he sort of signs in. It's a special little frame. And I just thought, oh dear Lord, here am I being bothered by my back. And here are these people who can barely walk, who are just loving kids. It was just a really special time. So that's another one of finding good. But do you know, we talked about this at the beginning. Sometimes good is we run up to good, just like you said you did, which was you were heavy laden and you were weary and were like this, and then suddenly then the butter knife thing happened, and it changed your day because of that. So I think endure and enjoy are two words that really do match each other sometimes. And usually it's the endurance which leads to the joy, perhaps. It's just a thought. So is there some, hey, do you have another one?
I do.
I'd love you. Oh, good. Excellent. Go for it.
So I was going on another walk with the same friend from before. And
Yes.
because we had brought up that story, I was thinking, okay, look up. And I was trying my best to look up. And it was a beautiful, it was a gorgeous field. Like it was a hillside. There were snowy mountains in the background. There was wonderful trees and beautiful grass. And I looked and it was kind of muddy. And so I was like, all right, I might slip, but it's worth it to just like look up.
Yeah.
And I felt kind of a squelch underneath my shoe as I was just like looking out and wandering around. And I looked down and it wasn't mud. It was it was horse poop.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was so funny. I was like, man, Graham's gonna love this story. I'm just like, yeah, I was looking up and walking around. I'm like,
All right.
But I just laughed because I was thinking of like the fact that I was trying to look up and I was just like, oh, well.
I met my wife, Trina, when she was 10 at school, and I was the older man at 11. Okay. So she went overseas and came back when she was 20. And so we reunited at 20. And I took her for a walk in the morning, the day after. I took her to dinner. And then the day after, seeing her after all these years, I took her for a walk in an English countryside. And we came to a cattle crossing. You're already ahead of me a little bit, but you wait. And so I said, can I carry you across? Because it's very muddy, here. And I thought that's the way I can get her up in my arms. Sorry. But, and she said, okay. So she's very small and quite light. So I whipped her up in my arms and strode manfully across this cattle crossing and went right up to my knee in a mixture of manure and mud. So right up to my knee.
Oh my
so
goodness.
We're leaning over like this, and she's quite close to me. And she says to me, so what are we going to do now? And I looked at her and I said, would you marry me? And she said, of course. And that was how I asked her to marry me. So you treading in manure has a wonderful way of reminding me of that. Thank you. That's
Anytime, Graham.
I only have one other thing, which for me was a pure delight. I had to have a virtual conference with my surgeon that had been responsible for ridding me of bladder cancer some time ago, about nearly 2 years ago now. And so it was a follow-up thing that he wanted to do, the CT scan and that sort of thing. My goodness, talk about the difficulty of going virtual instead of going into an office. An office is fine, but going online, this was so complicated for me to get to him, but wonderfully. And by the time that I was through with all this mess, I was thoroughly upset, and I'm not really enduring it. I was just not looking forward to this. I knew what the CT scan was about and that I was clear. So that joy had gone away. Now I was having to go through paying $35 to be told it had gone away. Okay, so, and he can't get his camera to work.
Oh no.
He's prodding the thing, and I'm able to tell him, oh, you know, when a fellow's got his knife inside you and doing all kinds of high-tech things, and it's all sort of close to God, you know, these doctors, and then the patient can tell him where you press the button. I'm sorry, I'm much too unduly happy about that, but it was just a wonderful moment.
That's great.
So instead of having tea at 3, I have now started this new thing.
Ooh, is that to help drink water?
Yes, that's right. So it
Don't give
gradually
up.
goes.
Almost there. You did it. Oh, that's fun.
it goes through the whole day. I'm not doing too well at the moment, but I'm getting more. I'm getting more water in than I think I've ever done in my life, which is very good.
My goal is always to have the largest container possible on my desk. So that way, when it's empty and I don't feel like getting up to get more, like at least I've had as big as the
Yes.
container as I can find. Mine's also got
Good.
measurements, but they're not nearly as fun as yours. I have one more, and it's a really good one.
Okay. You saved it for last.
Yeah. On the 15th was one of my really close friends who lives near me. It was her due date. She has been pregnant, and it's been she's kind of like not the first one in our friend group, but the first one that I've like lived close to and like been really close to in my friend group to be pregnant and have a kid. So her due date was the 15th, and on like the 14th, she went in because she thought it was happening, and then it wasn't happening. And then like every time that she went in, she has a dog. And so like her sister would go down and get the dog and come back, and we would all like hang out with her sister and like await the news because only the husband could go into the hospital right now. And so we would all like hang out with the dog and be like, we're ready to hear the news. And then she would come back and we would like bring the dog back to her. And then like 2 days later, she like went back into the hospital, and then I'm always getting texts at like 4 a.m. saying like, she's back in the hospital, and I'm waking up at like 7 being like, okay, I'm awake. Where do I need to be? I'm ready. Like just on and off this whole week. But on Wednesday, finally it was happening, almost there. And we like started like taking bets on like the exact time of day that he was gonna come. And then we like didn't hear from her for like 4 hours. We're like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, is she okay?
Yes.
Did she have to get a C-section? Like, there are so many, like every birth is so unique. I can't even imagine like the possibilities. And then we just get this one text that says, he's the most perfect creature in the entire world. And we're just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Like everybody's like, me and my friend and her, like the friend who had the baby, her sister, we're all there with the dog, and we're like jumping up and down. We had these little champagne bottles that we like popped open and like sent her pictures of like us cheering with the dog and be like, you're a big brother to the dog. And he's just like, he's the most perfect little child, and everybody's really healthy, and it's so great, and it's just really wonderful for her. Now that's over, and it's just like she's with baby's healthy, she's healthy, and it's been amazing. It's been like a crazy time to be like, oh, I want to go see him, but we can't yet. Like, but we get pictures and like, so it's this whole week has been like, that's a lot of what's bouncing around in my brain. Is just like, I can't even imagine this whole process, but then like the perfect little angel pops out and you're like, oh my goodness. So that will be a good source of joy for me for the foreseeable future, I think.
And your friend went through pain and then had this moment of joy. Could there be any better example of endurance and joy than that, than giving birth?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. It's so good to have that like that constant reminder to seize those little moments of like, you know, stepping in horse poop or like almost dropping a butter knife or
For being crushed by your cabinet. Yeah.
Or this moment right here of this guy really wanting to come up and say hi. How did you get in here? The door's closed. This is it. This is great. We are officially now in season 3, looking for good, arching tea at 3.
Hey, can I insert one quick word in there? That please at home, we're looking for good, and it can be difficult leading to good, and it might be really difficult for you, and all of a sudden something good would happen, and we would just be so thrilled to hear from you if you wanted to tell us about it. I mean, really, we would love that. Okay.
So thank you so much for watching, everyone. We will see you again next week. This has been Tea at 3 Looking for Good. I am Faye Schmidt. This is Graham Kerr, and we will see you next week. Oh, and don't forget, we do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/tea@3. And if we just get a few people to put a little bit of money that way towards it's a monthly program that can keep this program going for the foreseeable future. So thank you so much to the people who are already supporting us there. And if you're willing to, head on over there and check it out. Please do also remember to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. It really helps us out. And like the video if you enjoyed watching. Thanks.